today John Jennings from Focal Point, and he is a male ally. And although I hate using the word ally because then it makes you think of war, and it's not a war. There he is. Yep. Also, we can't hear you, so you have to do the thing where you click the 3 buttons and then find the microphone. And yeah, every edition is a struggle bus edition.
It really
Let's
is.
see. More.
How about now?
We hear you.
Yay!
Yes.
Yay.
That'll be another $150, John.
Yeah,
We're
well,
up to 300 today.
Can we just take it as credit? Like for
Okay,
coaching?
sure.
Coaching credits.
Oh yeah, put that on. So yeah, so John Jennings is with Focal Point, and he is my business coach. And if you have a business or you're in a business, you should have a business coach and find one you gel with, and it can be really good. John, is there anything else you want to say about yourself?
Oh gosh, I'm just honored to be here with you fine ladies of KHIT, and I'm a little intimidated, but also
You should never
interested
be
to see what happens today.
You should always be intimidated by us.
Yeah.
Okay, so who wants to go first?
Well, just real quick, we've been on kind of a hiatus, right?
Yeah.
So we skipped a week or two, so it's good to be back, and good to be back with John. And Amber has a sick kid, so she won't be joining us today. John, do you want to go first since you're our visitor?
Well,
He doesn't know the format.
yeah. So what's the format? I just tell you.
We talk about books that we're currently reading, books that we love. If you're listening to a podcast or an audiobook, you can mention that. We were talking before we got on here, went live about getting books as gifts, and then feeling overwhelmed with how many books that are on the to-read shelf.
I was showing my unread bookshelf, which is starting to kind of scare me. Because
it can feel overwhelming.
I don't like having that many stacked up, and it's weird. Pre-pandemic, I would read like 36 books a year.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, I read like 12 or something.
What were you doing instead? It's not like you're going out.
It's like the pandemic sucked so much energy, I think, out of me. I just had no energy. Reading to me takes energy. I mean, and I don't know. I find that I read more when I'm active and doing things and I'm trying to learn. And part of kind of what the book I just read that we're going to talk about came out of during the pandemic. This time last year, my mind wasn't in the best shape. March and April, May were like brutal for me personally. And so I was struggling a lot of different ways. I'd lost my mom. I had not to COVID. But she passed away right at the beginning of COVID. And then my wife lost her job. My daughter lost her job. My son and daughter-in-law were missionaries, lost their funding, and they were stranded in the Dominican for 4 months. With all this stuff was going on in my personal life, and I was not in a good mindset. So the little bit of reading I did was really on trying to get my mind in better shape. And you and I have talked about this some in our coaching sessions about resilience and emotional intelligence. And I find that anxiety and all these things really come back to, what's going on between our ears more than anything else. And so when Craig Groeschel came out with a book earlier this year called Winning the War on Your Mind, or Winning the War in Your Mind. I like Craig Groeschel. I listen to his podcast all the time on leadership. I got to read this book, and so that's the book I just finished. And it was a lot of the same stuff, but it's about how to defeat that beast inside us that tries to hold us back, and so it's just been one of those books that if you're in that place where or if you know somebody or somebody close to you is having those struggles with winning over anxiety and hopefully nothing worse like depression or whatever, but just anxiety is everywhere. And this pandemic definitely drove up anxiety. And it took me about 3 months, to get out of it. I had a coach that helped me. So coaching even works for coaches.
That's like how therapists have therapists.
Yeah. And so, this coach helped me by, doing things like practicing, things like gratitude, recognizing, the blessings you have, getting out of my own self-pity mode and serving others. And so, one of the things I started doing, one of the things that really helped me get out of it was I started doing webinars. I just started doing free webinars for people. Sometimes 5 people would show up, sometimes 30 people would show up, but I was just spending a lot of time, probably a day or two a week, prepping for and then conducting a webinar. But by serving others, it kind of took me out of that, that self-pity mode. And I felt like I was adding value,
Right.
But, so anyway, this book, he has 4 keys that he talks about. I've got it on my Kindle app, so it's easy for me to look over here. So pardon me for not looking at the camera. But first, he calls it the replacement principle. So when you have negative thoughts running around your head, replace them with positive thoughts. And that's kind of a little bit of the gratitude kind of thing, He says, just one of his quotes I've highlighted that I really like. He said, because this is crucial, a lie believed as truth will affect you as if it were true. So I think you and I talked a little about that truth.
And the superconscious, which I'm absolutely obsessed with, but like imposter, that imposter syndrome and believing things that aren't true. And
yeah. If you believe inside your head that lie is true, it is just as impactful to a truth that is,
which makes me a really good liar. Makes me the good liar that I am, because I believe 100% of my lies.
Yeah. If you believe 100% of it. So that can certainly create some challenges for us. And so you really have to ask yourself the hard questions about, why am I doing this? Am I being honest with myself, and that sort of thing. But so the replacement principle. Then the second one is the rewire principle. So we get these thoughts going on in our head because we've trained our minds to act certain ways. And so I used to first thing in the morning check email when I was working in the corporate world, because I knew overnight something bad had happened, because something always bad happened. So the first thing out of bed was check email and see what went bad, in the last 8 hours. And so because of that, opening up email became something that churned my stomach, just opening up an email. I knew, was going to be some bad news, something had broken overnight, whatever. And even to this day, even though I'm years removed from that, I still hate to open email, and because I just had this feeling that something bad's going to be there, even though never anything bad there anymore, really. Very seldom is there anything bad. But our minds get wired that way. And so we have to work really hard to rewire our minds. And that's a kind of a fascinating idea. And then he talks about reframing. So you see a little trend here: replacement, rewire, and reframe. And this is where you get into the kind of the filters we have. And you and I have talked some about cognitive biases and things like that, and how we have to recognize those. And I've become really fascinated with cognitive biases. I started probably reading about them 6 months ago, but we all have them. And now, like everybody I'm close to, I can now peg them with what their cognitive bias is.
The optimism bias, is that one?
Optimism bias is one.
Well,
So the
Rebekah's
optimism
nodding her
bias
head, yeah.
is no matter what you hear, you only hear the good news. So, Dani comes to you and says, Katie, this client, this and this and this is going on, and maybe two of them are bad and one of them's good. You only hear the good. And the two that are bad, you heard them in a good light, like you heard them as opportunities,
Fine. Fix that.
and your team gets frustrated because they're like, I'm trying to tell you something I'm worried about, and you're just like spinning it around into something good. But then there's the opposite, the pessimism bias, which means no matter what you bring to me, it's always negative. And so you go, hey, we just signed a new client. Oh, great. We're never going to be able to support them. Oh, we just got a new contract with so-and-so. Oh gosh, just when I'm getting ready to go on vacation, right? Or whatever. And so, and then there's the, oh gosh, there's so many of them.
There's 12 actually.
Well, even depending on who you believe, it just goes on and on and on. But the one that, oh gosh, I just lost it. The one that we're basically confirmation bias. Where basically everything you hear is confirming what you believe. And so
That's
you're
like
just,
right?
Yeah. And so social media plays into that because Facebook and these platforms learn what you like and learn what your trends are. And then they tend to feel more of the same to you. Or the same thing happens like if you're conservative and you watch Fox News, or you're liberal and you watch CNN, you're watching platforms that feed you information that supports your beliefs. And so it's one of the dangers of the media today is that we aren't when we only had 3 channels of news to choose from, and you got somewhat balanced because they had to kind of, and now we've got this polarized news platform, and so people aren't getting a balanced news anymore.
Right.
That's way off topic. And then the fourth one is so it's replace, rewire, reframe, and then rejoice, and the idea that find reasons to find joy in things, and that ties back into kind of being practicing your gratitudes and things like that. Whether you're a Christian or whatever your faith is, spending some time being thankful and recognizing kind of what you have going on in your life. We're blessed in this country. I mean, my son was a missionary in Haiti for 3 years, went down there a couple times. Oh my gosh, he was in like the nice part of Haiti. And believe me, there's no place in the U.S. like that. And so we do have to kind of realize how blessed we are. So while I didn't read this book till this year, I wish I had had it a year ago, but it fits very much in line with what I was doing to kind of pull myself out of a funk. And, fortunately, I had a good coach and I had some good content I was reading. I had a couple other books that were really good. And, I'm sitting here today because actually, I met you right around that time. It's funny, I met you right around the time I'd come out of that funk. July and August was kind of when things started turning good for me. Yeah. And I think we met right around August, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'd have met you in April, you probably would never hired me because
I've been like, that guy has some serious.
It was like I felt like there was a cloud hanging over my head.
Oh, that's awful. And that's Craig Groeschel. Dani, did you find his name?
I made a note to look it up.
Okay, because what we do, John, is when we post these on our YouTube channel and then on all the social medias, we have links to the books, the authors, and then what's the name of his podcast? Do you know?
I'll look it up real quick. I think it's just like the Craig Groeschel Leadership Podcast or something like that. But let me.
That's inventive.
See. Yeah, Craig Groeschel Leadership Podcast. There.
Okay.
Perfect. For the women, he's a looks to be a fairly attractive, athletic guy.
Thanks, John, for just
I know I'm not that guy. So, but anyway, he's actually a pastor of one of the largest mega churches but it's out of Oklahoma, Life Church. And I think they've just opened up a Life Church branch here in Louisville.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
I will say that like the 4 things you went over, the gratitude one, the very first one, that helped me this March because I was coming out of like all the gray, all the cold for winter, and it was just freaking miserable. So for the whole month of March, I did a gratitude journal, which is at least one thing that I was thankful for. And then usually as the days progressed, I got really good at it and just kind of like retrain my brain to look for the positive,
Rewire.
not the negative, not like toxic positivity, but just finding things like not everything is so bad. And I feel like I'm actually at a point where I probably need to do it again because I realize like my brain is like going to the negative. Any mild inconvenience, I'm just like, I do not handle it with grace. I was thinking about like Monday and Tuesday of this week, they were just a complete shit show in my head, right? Because it just seemed like one thing after another. But really, when I think about it, it's like it wasn't that bad. All I was focusing on was the negative, though. So I think that like we all need that reminder to just find things to be thankful for, things to feel positive about. So
I'll share with you. This is what the coach shared with me last year. Her challenge to me was, and so I'll share with you. So it was called the 21-Day Optimism Challenge, and her point was, if you do this for 21 days, it will transform you, and it truly did. So it was every day you had to come up with 3 gratitudes, 3 things you're grateful for, and you can't repeat any of them. You can never repeat. Yeah. So it's, the first week is good, second week gets a little harder. By like day 17 or 18, you're like, man, I'm grateful for coffee,
That wasn't week 1.
Right? That wasn't week 1.
Would have made my week 1.
No, I was able to go a while before I had to resort to that. But then, so there's 3 gratitudes every day. Journal something good that happened in the previous 24 hours. A good conversation, something happened in your life, something with business. Just write like a paragraph or 2 about something good that happened. Third was exercise. Not good at that. I failed at that a lot.
But like every day?
Every day, at least some kind of activity, whether it was getting up and walking around the block or just not sitting at your desk, not like a half hour of intense workout, but just something, some kind of exercise.
I'm gonna write down movement instead
of movement. Okay.
Okay.
Some kind of meditation or prayer for at least a couple of minutes, and then practice a random act of kindness for somebody. And that was hard during the pandemic. But what I found I would do is I would just like send somebody a text. Somebody I hadn't heard from a while, just say, hey, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. Again, it's that idea of getting outside of your own pity party,
Yes.
So if you do those 5 things every day for 3 weeks, it transforms. It really does transform.
Okay, we're going to do that. And then we'll have a KHIT reads about it, but not really reads. Although random acts of kindness, I did pay for a guy's lunch this weekend when I was in Reno. He was adorable. He was a veteran. He was an Army vet, and he had French toast and like his coffee. And so I asked him if French toast was good. He's like, oh yeah, it's very good. And he was just so sweet. And so when I was leaving, I paid for his lunch. But like, I can't do that every day. It's exhausting.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said, it could just be
picking up trash. Does that count?
What's that?
Picking up trash.
Sure. Why not?
It's kind to the.
It's kind to the community, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Now, if you're talking about going around picking up one plastic bottle in front of your house, that's.
I mean, that sounds like it might count though.
But like I said, I just did a lot of texts. I would just send a text to somebody I hadn't heard from a while. Especially that was during the pandemic, so people were, people were all shut in and stuck by themselves. So just hearing from somebody a lot of times was good. Just, hey.
I sent a lot of snail mail during the pandemic, like especially the early part where I was feeling, because I live alone. So, and I was just feeling really cloistered by myself. I wasn't getting a lot of outside like connection at all. And, I got kind of down. I'm like, nobody, or it felt like no one cared. It felt like, everyone had forgotten about me, because when you feel alone, you just kind of spiral. And so I started mailing letters, like my nieces who live in Jeff. I mean, not that far away, but I couldn't see them, or like my family in California, and like just friends, like just let you know I was thinking about you. And I like to print pictures. Like I take a lot of pictures, but I also print a lot of pictures, which means that I have like stacks of like printed photos. I mean, what the heck am I going to do with them? So like I would just go through and find pictures that I thought would make someone smile, and just tuck them in an envelope with a little note and send them off. It doesn't have to be like this huge letter that, expressing your feelings for, entire, it just has to be like just a little something. Let them know that, because remember, like, I'm not the only lonely single out there, like living by themselves. And God bless, my dog was just, I was dealing with that as well. So, I mean, there's just a lot. And so just getting outside of your own head, realizing that other people are probably feeling the same way, and they would probably appreciate a hello or a text or something like that. Just let them know that they're not alone.
Yeah. And that, my wife losing her job, which was crazy, because so she started a new job last year on March 1st.
Oh, shit.
And she worked 5 days, and the employer, I won't say their name, decided they were going to have everybody go remote. And they went, you haven't been here long enough. And so they let her go. And so that was how pandemic started for us. And so at first, it was like, oh, what are we going to do? Health insurance, all these kind of things. But the flip side was April and May. I'm, as you know, I'm not an introvert. Being clustered up, at home by myself would have been brutal. So having her at home, laid off, was actually kind of a cool blessing for me, because it helped me survive those tough times too. So you start looking for the the blessings inside the bad things.
Excellent. Becky with the good hair, do you have a book that you want to talk about this week?
So I actually just started the first AJ Rivers book. It is called The Girl in Cabin 13. So
I heard about that book.
It's so good so far. So he has this entire series. It's literally like 1,000 books. Like, I don't even know how many it actually is. But it's a ton of books, and it's all about an FBI agent, a female FBI agent, which is super cool. And it's about like why she became an FBI agent. Like, her mother passed away and her father disappeared, and like just her childhood was so like traumatic. Like, it led her to becoming an FBI agent so she could kind of like take hold of her own life and like figure out the things that like shaped her. So it's super, super good so far. I'm not like super deep into it, but I'm loving it. And so I'm super excited to like work through the series.
Excellent.
What's the name of it again?
Right there. It's The Girl in Cabin 13 by AJ Rivers.
Why did I type 12 and you said it 4 times? The Girl in Cabin.
So, and if you have Kindle Unlimited, it's one of the like books that's in Kindle Unlimited. So like the whole series is in Kindle Unlimited.
Yes. And so is AJ male or female? Do you know, is the writer?
Oh, I don't know.
It's female.
It is? I wasn't sure. No, AJ Rivers is a male.
Oh, okay.
No, it's a female. Sorry.
I was going to say, picture was not 100%. I couldn't quite tell.
Yeah, so AJ Rivers is a female.
That's cool. I only asked because I was going to suggest them to Sarah, my sister, and she likes to know the gender of the author before she gets started, and it's because she has gender bias. Only because she feels like, women are better writers. Stephen King would probably disagree with her, but, they're not really friends anymore.
So
yeah,
I'm just looking. She's published 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13 books in the past 2 years in this one series.
How is that possible?
I don't know. I mean, that's like
What?
That's what I'm looking at. Girl in Cabin 13 came out in 2019, and then it's The Girl That Vanished, The Girl in the Manor, The Girl Next Door, The Girl in Deadly, blah blah blah. The girl. There's only one not named The Girl. It's called Dangerous Waters.
The whole series starts with the girl.
Except for one. There's one in there that doesn't.
That's annoying. But maybe she pulled a Taylor Swift and she like just had all this like, and then during the pandemic, she just like finished it all and pushed it out there.
And speaking
Totally
of
could have.
a lot of authors will have like, they'll put out a book, but then they'll have like 4 or 5 in the vault, right? So that if they have writer's block or they don't have time to write, but because everything, you have to market yourself, and you have to, if you want to be relevant, you have to publish every so often, or like on a timeline. And so he says that he has like several that if he's not feeling motivated to write, then he'll pull one out of the vault and work on it. And sometimes it'll inspire a new book, or sometimes he'll finally get that one published.
Maybe AJ has a group of writers locked in her basement, like James Patterson does.
Oh yeah.
And
John
she-
Grisham.
yeah,
James
she-
Patterson has a formula, and he's got a lot of co-writers now.
Yeah.
I think they just put his name on the books so that they'll sell.
yeah, and then he gets a cut of it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna put that one on my to-read list. Dani, you wanna go next, or you may go next?
I can go next.
Okay.
So we kind of touched on it. I don't know if it was while we were live or not, but I'm reading Gender Goggles by Jill Eaton. It has been really eye-opening, and it's a really quick and easy read. She does not kind of bog you down with a lot of like statistical details, but all of her source information is included in the book, which I really appreciate, because by chapter, it's listed by chapter. So if you want to read the scholarly article or the book that she's referencing in her book, then it's all there for you for additional reading. But I really like how it's a simple, straightforward format, and it has already just really opened my eyes to a lot of things that I didn't realize that I did, and why I probably do it, and if it's necessarily a bad thing, or if it's something that I want to like focus on addressing or correcting. So my favorite thing so far is how women or men have brains that are kind of like grids, like a waffle.
Yeah.
Right? And so like once they're done with one little waffle square, they move on to the next waffle square, and the waffle squares are not usually connected, right? So they compartmentalize, which we all know that. But I mean, I just love the idea of it being like a waffle. And then women's brains are like spaghetti. So instead of having waffle squares, we have a noodle, and those noodles touch all the other noodles. And I think she pulled that from a source, but just the fact, I just thought, oh my God, like that's why I get irritated with my boyfriend all the time. Like, Jesus. Or like when I'm dealing with my dad, or like, any other male in my life, I'm like, that's why their brains just don't work that way. It's not personal. They don't not care, but it's just, that's not how their brains work.
It's like when you ask them what they're thinking and they say nothing, and you're like, how can they possibly be thinking about, because they're in that.
Thank you. That makes me so mad. That is an argument on like a daily basis. How is there nothing running through your head right now?
It really is. It's like this, the part of the waffle, and John here as our ally, which is going to come back when we have the author on, which we'll talk about in a minute. It's like this nothing square.
Yeah.
I don't understand how there's a nothing square.
I don't either.
Thinking about
There's never a nothing square.
Right? Or yeah, or they're thinking about a ball game that happened 3 years ago that like they don't want to say it because they think that it'll be stupid, because we're always thinking amazing thoughts, right?
Exactly. And then they showed a picture of a male brain and a female brain, and so the male brains had like connections that went like this, right? So they kind of sit on one side, but women's go back and forth, right? So they go connecting the right brain and the left brain, and it's just like scribbling. And I thought, that makes so much more sense. Like that's how come we think about things differently, especially working in a technology field. Like the way our brains work is just completely different than our male counterparts. So that's so it's just been eye-opening. I've really enjoyed it. And my other book that I'm reading is Vegetables Love Flowers, and I had it pulled up, but my phone went to sleep. And oh, you probably can't see it. It's okay. It's by Lisa Mason Ziegler, and it's all about like how she went from not having no gardening experience to gardening in like formal rows, and how her husband's family always gardened, and how like catching things in like with different things in bloom attract different insects, which are typically beneficial. Anyway, it's super fun. She doesn't like she had a good luck from the start, it sounds like. So I can't identify with that. But so I'm enjoying that because I always like learning more about, because I have a big garden and I like learning how to make it better. And I always garden with plants or flowers now. I garden with plants. I mean, you just kind of have to. You can put rocks in there, but nothing's going to happen.
Yes.
How's your garden going so far?
Crispy, really crispy. So
Right.
we put it in like, was it 2 Sundays ago when we were supposed to get rain for 4 days off and on, and we got no rain. So I've lost a lot of things. But then we went out on Sunday and watered, and I was heartened to see that some things were alive, and my beans are popping up. I'm doing an experiment this year with dried beans. I've never grown beans to dry, and so I've got those are popping, and I've got green beans popping. So it makes it easier to swallow the fact that I'm going to have to replace all of my squash and zucchini.
Yeah,
so.
we do too. We lost a lot over the weekend.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Yeah, I've lost some shrubbery this last week, so I tried transplanting some things that the heat got to them. So,
Yeah.
I don't even try.
so I want to go back to the male brain
thing. Huh?
Yeah. He wants
I
to go
want to
back
go back
to
to the male brain thing a second.
He's
I
so
don't necessarily agree with the think that guys, at least for me, I'm not. So when someone says, "What are you thinking about?" and I say nothing, it's not that I'm truly not thinking about anything. It's like I'm not thinking about anything worth sharing. Like,
Right.
I mean, so like I think we do compartmentalize better and say, okay, I'm working on this and I'm working on this and this, and we bounce. We don't multitask, Katie, but we bounce from one topic to another and deal with it. But I think when someone says, "What are you talking about?" and I say nothing, it's because I'm talking about something like so inconsequential. It's like, maybe it's like in that moving from one waffle segment to the next waffle segment for a moment. I think about something I need to do 2 weeks from today, or what am I going to watch?
Why wouldn't you just say that? Like, why would if someone asked me what I was thinking?
I think
on behalf of your wife.
What's
On
that?
behalf of your wife, when she asks you, "What are you thinking?" she wants to know that you're thinking about something that you have to do in 2 weeks. Like,
well, maybe we're embarrassed about what we're thinking about.
Well, I mean, if it's
probably
private.
I mean, what's private from your spouse?
Right, John?
I'm not going to go there, but hey, guys'
secrets
minds go
from your wife.
places. Guys' minds go places, and it could be that commercial on TV
My
or
thoughts are
something.
like,
So I'm thinking about the girl in the Bud Light commercial. That's your answer.
I'm not saying that. I'm just.
Maybe you are, and that's okay.
oh my gosh. I seriously think you could spin it though. Like, I'm thinking about, the Bud Light commercial and how, like, what was their target audience? Like, that's something you could say about.
Yeah.
The
Because I
marketing
think if I said, well, I'm still thinking about that commercial, she would see right through that.
Like the one with the horses, and then she'd be like, oh, the horses.
Yeah.
Right? Bud Light always has horses in theirs. Okay. So what we learned from that is that when John says that he's thinking of nothing, he's thinking about women on TV. Just to sum up that part. Okay, so I am reading Night Circus.
Oh, I just finished that.
Yeah. Dani has suggested it. It is a lot of pages. I am 51%. I'm 51% of the way through it. It is like over 700 pages, and it's not a quick read, but it's really well written. Like, it is a female author. Not that I have anything. I guess I'm going to talk about Wally in a sec, but it's so good. It's about magic, but not in a. But that's not really what like the book is about. There's
it's hard to describe, right?
It is. There's like the well, and I can't even tell you who the protagonist is. Is it the guy or is it the girl? Like, which one's the protagonist?
Which one's the protagonist is the challenge.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm thinking.
Well, that wouldn't that be the antagonist?
Because the challenge, so there's these two kids that are raised for this specific challenge by, one is the girl's dad raises her, and then the boy is pulled out of an orphanage, and he's raised by a kind of aloof man, and they're raised for this particular magic challenge, and it's the place is the circus. Maybe the circus is the main character of the book. I don't know, but it's beautifully written. It's a really interesting, like, it's not very direct, so you have to kind of infer a lot, and
I know, but I wouldn't call it a fantasy novel. Like, it's not magic. It's not about magic like that. It's about like magic of the circus and learning manipulation, and
it's really hard to describe.
Yeah, it is. And then the other thing, I'm rereading I Know This Much Is True by Wally Lamb. I love Wally Lamb. I fell in love with him in college, and the reason I'm rereading it is because I just watched the HBO series I Know This Much Is True with Mark Ruffalo. He played both Thomas and Dominic. It was 6 episodes. It probably could have been 3. But watching books come to life, I'm glad I didn't reread it before I watched it, because I would have been very angry the entire time. I'd be like, that didn't happen. That's wrong. That didn't happen. And so, but it was really well done. Some of the scenes lasted a little bit longer than they needed to be. Had I had the remote control, I would have been like, fast forward 15 seconds. But I didn't. But if you have HBO or Hulu or whatever magic makes it come to your TV, I would suggest it. I Know This Much Is True, so I'm reading that. And then also my friend Elizabeth, her husband, wrote a book that got published that I'm super excited about. We're going to order it. It is called This Here's Devil's Work by Curtis Bradley Vickers. And it's about wildfires. It's fiction. Curtis himself was experienced a wildfire as a child, and so yeah, hopefully we can have Curtis on, because I mean, I like know him, like I was in his house this weekend. Not to be like whatever. And then like we said earlier, gender goggles. We're gonna make we're gonna ask John to read it, and then we're going to ask the author, Jill Eaton, that we met at the Women in Tech Conference, and to come on, and we will just do an episode on gender goggles, and we will actually read the whole thing, not just the first 3 chapters.
Oh, and that's the other thing. If you don't like to read, she has chapter summaries at the end of every chapter, like the bulleted points. That's what I really like. The chapters are shorter, and then she gives you bullet points at the end for a review. She's a genius.
I noticed it's only 140 pages, which is
exactly
a nice length. I always say most business books, and I read a lot of business books, are about twice as long as they need to be.
Yes.
Yeah. Dani asked her why she wrote the book, I think. Didn't you answer that? And she said that she had done her thesis on that, and then she was retiring, and she didn't want all of that, all the knowledge, all the stuff that she gained and curated to be lost. So, and then she was retired, so she wrote a book.
Yeah.
John, do you want to share your writing experience?
So I'm writing a book.
Ooh.
My wife has been after me to write a book for a long time. I'm not saying this to sound arrogant. I'm a good writer, and by that I mean I can produce a lot of good content in a very short time. It's not always as polished and everything, but that was one thing I did, during the pandemic. I did blog a lot. I wrote a lot, stuff like that. I produced a lot of content. Yeah, I've just been, one thing people tell me a lot, and I think Katie has said this to me, others have said, you're a great storyteller, and I'm like, okay, I do like to weave storytelling into my coaching, tell something, if someone's dealing with something, I might pull something that's 20 years old and, but bring it, and tell it as a teaching kind of opportunity. So, what's that?
A little anecdote.
Yeah. And so I've got so many of those now. I mean, just hundreds of stories that I can tell. So yeah, I've been toying with that. I've actually written a couple of, like 3 chapters, and I'm talking to publishers right now about, you know, how to go about doing it.
Edit his book for him. Because also Dani's a good editor as well. She used to edit my college papers. Even though I was an English major, I had to have Dani edit my papers. Because you need someone else's eye.
Well, and most publishers will tell you to have an editorial board or whatever you want to call it that will, in addition to that formal editing that is the, make sure all the punctuation's right but the editorial board helps you more with, hey, I don't think you're connecting with, like if Katie's she come in reading it from the standpoint also of a woman business owner, and so she might say, this John, you're just speaking to guys here. Women aren't going to understand this, or if I'm just having like my wife who's not a business owner, she might look at it from the standpoint of an employee or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to get input from different people. So it's a sizable investment. So I'm trying to figure out how to best do that, pull that off, and not I don't want to go. I know a lot of poor authors out there who spend a lot of money and then never make it back. I actually do want to at least make it back, from the standpoint.
Right.
I don't want to.
We would love to promote the book once it's done.
Well, yeah, and I certainly would hope you would, and as we build up the KHIT Reads audience and get more people, and I'm hoping it's going to be something that it's targeted at business owners or people who who either are in small businesses or dealing with things. It's bringing a lot of my coaching kind of stuff in a way that hopefully will be fun, but also challenging. You know
what they say: if you want to be a better writer, read more, and if you want to be a better reader, write more.
I had not heard that.
Oh, really? Thought everybody heard that. Did you know that your blood is blue until it hits the oxygen, and that's what makes it red?
Yes.
I knew that, but
what does that have to do with me writing?
Absolutely nothing, John. That's what this is about.
I think on that note, it's time to wrap up.
That tells us we're out of things to talk about.
Yeah.
That's what but we always say, UK fans always point out that your blood's truly blue. It's not till it's you're bleeding that it becomes that red color. So.
Oh, that's UK fans, man. That's a whole nother episode.
Actually, we're not going to have an episode on UK fans. This is
Dani,
we got all these Hoosiers in here.
This is probably the only time that any type of sport or fan will ever be mentioned in KHIT Reads.
That's true. This is a one and only.
If you're going to be honest, unless John's on here, it's really not going to be talked about.
Yeah, we could.
I wasn't intending it. She just brought up blue blood, so it kind of.
But in all of our spaghetti, we don't have a little spot for sports. That's where the man waffle is.
Oh, come on. You always have a spot somewhere,
For maybe a live sporting event. I appreciate a live sporting
event, yeah. If you want to check out Little League basketball with me some days, Pee Wee basketball, we get pretty
high there.
Is
they stand on the X, or do they?
Is there a bar? Is there a bar there?
There's not, no. But it gets that concession stand's lit. They've got some pretzels.
Those hot dogs are off the chain.
That's what Tervis tumblers are for.
Oh yeah.
That's true.
Anyway. Okay, John, thank you so much for joining us. And we can't wait to have you back for Agenda Goggles and for when you publish your book.
Yes.
And then tell us what you guys are reading in the comments. Everybody's frozen. Am I frozen? My computer is a piece of crap.
You froze for a second.
Tell us what you're reading in the comments. Give us suggestions. We would love to read your suggestions. Dani, anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
Oh, like our posts. Go to our YouTube channel and like our YouTube stuff. So leave a comment there too.
Yep.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. See you guys.
Have a great day.
Bye.